Like some churches can take care of musicians.
Yeah.
Some can't.
I feel like our church musicians are discouraged. They're losing sight of being in the church and are more concerned with the pay.
Yeah.
Which I understand is a job.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like some people just don't have a desire to even play in church anymore. Like they just would rather do their own thing. And we need good quality church musicians. So what advice would you give?
A few things. I want to say, like, I grew up in an era where we wasn't getting paid. It wasn't that we loved the music, we loved the opportunity, and we start looking, at the secular gigs, and then we've made the church, it's more gig related than it is ministry, and I think that's a disservice to the musician. I feel that we've made this something that it's not, and it's tough. Like some churches can take care of musicians.
Yeah.
Some can't.
Yeah.
Some do well, some don't do so well. My thing is, as a pastor, I'm looking, okay, what percentage do we pay for musicians? And then, okay, how does that match to the percentage that we, not the giving per se, but what are we giving to the community?
That's good.
Okay, if there's food recovery that's needed and things of that nature. And so I would say to the musicians, I should probably sit down and have I don't want to call it a seminar because it sounds like that. Yeah. Just get the guys together, girls together, talk about it. Because I think we've lost sight of what this is because of the many mistakes that leadership has made in handling musicians.
Yeah.
And I feel that this is not the place you're going to have a career in the church. But it should not be the place that I'm just going to get that little quick diss and then I'm out. And we've turned it into that. And I don't think that God will be pleased with us handling kingdom business that way. We definitely don't handle the secular realm that way.
Yeah.
First, if you are a believer, make sure your relationship with God is intact. And then as you read the word and begin to understand, you'll understand servitude, which is not just limited to what we do here, the musicians. We'll get a spirit of serving, and then make sure you sit with a leader that understands that and that doesn't abuse
That's good.
the musicians, because you see a lot of that.
Yeah.
Talk to them crazy, do things crazy. I'm not here to name no names, but there's some that do that.
Yeah.
I would say stay encouraged. If you want to be a professional musician, come holler at your boy. You can create your own music the way you hear it, the way you feel it, and you can work for yourself. You can put your records out now. You don't need a record label like we used to need back in the day. So there's really no excuse. But if you're waiting to play with all the top 10 artists, it's only 10 of them.
Hello.
And there's about 10 million drummers. So you got to look at it different. Like some.
Yo, fire take. I think this is super dope. I love Pastor Nisan's take on this. So shout out to him for laying this out in a very eloquent way that I don't really have too much to take away, like delete from what he's saying or what have you. And I agree. I grew up in the same vein, in the same time period where getting paid to play for church. Of course, we were kids at the thing. Like I was a kid, so we weren't even thinking about money like that. Like we weren't really thinking about that. It wasn't until I became an adult and got married and started having kids that I realized and then I started talking to other homeboys and they was getting paid like $200 a Sunday, 150, 300. Remember running across one homie that was making like $1,200 a Sunday to play for this big Baptist church. And I was like, yo, that's crazy. And I didn't know I could even get paid to play for church. So that was a thing that I understood and I grew into. But then I started getting paid, shortly thereafter as I, started growing my family, which wasn't a big deal at the church that I in. It wasn't it was reasonable pay, I believe, for the size of that church. Because like you said, not all the churches there's a bajillion of them out here in America. In the South, there's one on every corner. So not all of them can pay a livable wage to musicians, like to the piano player, to the organist, to the drummer. Not all of them can afford a full band situation, and that's okay. But I think in scenarios and places where it makes sense, you know what I'm saying? Where it makes sense. If your church is bringing in 7 figures a year in revenue from offering from all of these various things or what have you, and your musician is working working 30 to 40 hours for you per week, even a strong 15 to 20, even a strong 10 to 20. That's part-time job territory that they're putting in. Um, then that individual deserves something for their time, their effort, especially if you're the type of musician that's programming stems. You're putting in you're programming Ableton sessions. You're involved intimately with the media. Just, we know the avatar that exists that deserves to be paid for what they're doing, because they're beyond just offering a gift of just, I'm going to sit up here and just play these songs on Sunday, to know I am wholeheartedly invested in this, and I am giving of my time into this. um, those deserve to be paid. And more than likely, if you're doing that at your church probably can accommodate paying that. If you're, I'm not talking about like Beulah Baptist Church in the backwoods of the country, what I mean, with 57 members. They can't afford to pay you a livable wage. You're just doing that for the love. So I do agree with what he's saying about that, but I also want to balance that out. And I'm sure he even gave a balanced approach to it. That's just the way the balance and what I heard it. I don't think every situation is a paid situation that you have to walk into. The current situation that I'm in, that I play at, is fully volunteer. I do not get paid to play at the current church that I'm at. It's strictly volunteer. And I'm doing it because I can, because I want to offer of my gift. But I've also been in church situations where I am making a livable wage. I think one church I was at was 2,500 a month, that I was 25 to 3K a month that I was making. You know what I'm saying? Just playing for that church. You know what I'm saying? Then I've been at the 250 a week, $100 a week, 150 a week churches. Like, I've done it all from storefront to mega church. You know what I'm saying? And so, and I've done everything from paid to halfway paid to volunteer. So, you know what I'm saying? I understand every aspect of it. So I agree with what he's saying. And I also want to add to a couple of things to what he's saying, because um, as he was talking about musicians not being handled correctly, which has caused a lot of dissension between the pulpit and the piano. You know what I'm saying? Is because I said it in a video the other day. We as musicians, our church musicians, are the least pastored, members of the church often. You know what I mean? People don't check on us. They don't, you know, cover us properly. You know what I mean? They talk at us and not to us. You know what I'm saying? They walk away from us and not with us. You know what I'm saying? I know you guys feel that. That's been through that. We are some of the least pastored, members of any given church. And most people throw their hands at the musicians that like that, because, oh, they're alcoholics, they're drug addicts, they're sexing around, they're doing all of that. Well, you need to get to the root of why. Who's pastoring them? Who's covering them? You know what I mean? Who has created an environment? What church has created an environment that's conducive for them to come into? You know what I'm saying? And serve freely, and feel loved, and feel connected, and feel pastored, and feel like this is an environment where I like the environment that I'm in currently. One of the reasons why I volunteer there is because the atmosphere is so healthy, it's so conducive. It's such a good work that I want to be a part of it. And I don't feel the need to have to charge for it. That's the difference between, a lot of scenarios where you have churches that are literally making money hand over fist, but they aren't doing anything community related. Now, shout out to Pastor Nisan, because he talked about, like, oh, the balance of, do we pay the musician this thing, or do we put more into outreach? That is the way to think about it. If you're like the church that I'm in right now, they give away millions of dollars a year in outreach, millions of dollars in outreach and missions and all of those things. You know what I'm saying? So the justification of, like, oh, they don't pay the musicians, that's cool. Why? Because they are literally doing the work. There are so many churches out here that aren't doing anything in their community. I've been a part of several of them. been engaged with several of them, dozens of them, been engaged, been a part of several, been engaged with dozens of them, and probably hundreds if I counted it all if I counted it all up, of churches that do zilch in the community. Like literally, like they have the biggest church on the in the city, on the block, and the entire block around the church is dilapidated. Like they're doing nothing for the community around them, but yet they are pulling up to the churches in Benzes and Bentleys and all of that stuff like that. That's where the tension comes in. That's why it's not a monolith. This conversation isn't. You know what I mean? It's not a monolith of a conversation because of those things. We can't just like blanket it and just say this is what it is. No, it's just that. Now, I will also kind of tie in with what he said at the end of saying that as a musician, you should not, and I say this all the time, this is the pulpit that I preach from. You as a musician, you should not be putting all of your eggs in one basket. Like you should not be looking to the church as your sole like piece of income. There's nothing wrong with it being a source of your income. I stand by that. I stand 10 toes on that. There's nothing wrong with you having a set of income, a piece of your income coming from the church. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing evil about that. But it should not be your only source, even if the church is a mega church and it's paying you a livable wage every week. You still should not be over leveraging yourself on one source of income. You should be doing multiple sources of income with multiple streams flowing into it. That is how I have continued to do music full time for the course of my life, is that I do not over leverage myself on one source of income. There's so much to do from, doing stuff online, having your own website, production work, mixing work, engineering work, programming, running playback, running a YouTube channel, you know what I'm saying? Like there's so many, building plugins, building packs, doing all of these things. There's so many things you can do to leverage out your income to where you don't have to depend on the church to provide for your living. You know what I'm saying? And I'm an advocate for that. I'm an advocate for, yes, musicians should be paid for what they do. The services rendered, because you don't give that same conversation to the guy that cuts the yard for the church, to the landscaping business, to the HVAC person that comes in. I'm trying to think of things that are regular occurrences in the church. You don't, to the utility bill. You don't talk to the utility company and tell them those things. Well, we're putting this much in the outreach. Can we get a break on the bill each month? No, they don't care. There's a space where services rendered, determine the level of pay that you bring in there. There's nothing wrong with that. But I'm also a staunch advocate for, as the musician, not to depend on the church for the breadth of their income, like the entirety of their income. That is like a fool's game that you're playing dominoes with, to say that this is your only source of income. Branch out, get other sources of income, get other ways to make your money, start doing investments, start doing all these other things so you can get life insurance, health insurance, so you can have a retirement saved up by the time you get ready to get out of this game. That's the way that you play it. You know what I mean? That's the way you play it. Shout out to Pastor Nisan. I love this video. I think we need to have more healthy conversations like this, healthy approaches from a pastor that's also a musician, you know what I'm saying? And have these conversations about income, financial literacy and all of those things like that. I think we need to have these conversations, and I'm always here to have these conversations. So that's what I got on it. You guys let me know what you think. Yo, what up, guys? It's your boy, John Mike. If you've been rocking with my content and you want to go beyond what YouTube allows, what social media allows, that's exactly why I created my Patreon. Over there, I break down the real side of music tech, business, how this industry actually works, the creative side. I'm talking exclusive podcasts with your favorite creators. And there's 3 ways that you can join. There's a support tier that starts at just $5 a month. That's for people who just want to support my work and get early access to the content that I create. The Creator Plus tier goes deeper into the tools, the workflows, the plugins, everything that I use to create and scale out my content. And then there's the Business Plus tier. This is where we talk strategy, monetization, ownership, all of the things that I do to make money, how I scaled a 7-figure company, how you can do it too, asking questions, all of the crazy things that you want to know about how to build a sustainable, real career in music. So if you're really ready to take this to the next level and grow your creative business this year, then please join me over there at Patreon. The link is down below. I'll talk to you guys over there. Let's get it.